talk business, talk shop, and talk about everything that's going on at the Barndo Co. because there's a bunch going on.
Oh Lord, it's been pretty neat, man. It's been a handful, that's for sure.
Complaints are just complaints. Let's get them off your chest, let it out. It makes everybody better. We were eating breakfast at this place, Wagner's.
I got a hat from it.
And what else?
A whip.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Barndo Show. And today it's me and Ross here to just do some Q1 highlight reel stuff and just talk business, talk shop, and talk about everything that's going on at the Barndo Co. because there's a bunch going on.
Oh Lord.
And this is the perfect. And I wish my hoodie was white because we're yin and yang, baby. And but
literally,
it takes the two of us to make this machine move, man. So Q1 was crazy. We did a lot. We've done a lot in the last 90 days. And, one of those things was coming off a highlight reel year, doing the big annual retreat up in Flat Rock.
Better than ever. It's on my back.
Better than ever, baby. And that's kind of the mission this year, to become better than ever. And so we launched out of the gate, opened a brand new facility up in Dunn, North Carolina. That thing is beautiful. It's like the new standard, I think, for how we launch offices in the design center. And if you're near the Dunn, North Carolina area, you need to go check out that office because it is absolutely spectacular. We got an awesome team, but we've seen
it's better than our place.
Oh yeah, it blows Duncan out of the water.
I'm a little jealous.
What's funny is like as you scale, like you get better and better and better, and then as you like launch offices, then you're like, wait a second, you got nicer shoes than we got, right? But let's talk about this expansion because we've kind of grown like a bottle rocket. And we always on here posting about all the wins and all the successes and all that stuff, but we don't always talk about like some of the failures. And so I want to just highlight some of the struggle, right? Like some of the things that happened during that scale. I celebrate all the cool stuff, but like, let's talk about none. Like that was a hurdle in and of itself because we're selling out in North Carolina. We're trying to facilitate all this stuff. We have one project manager, Hunter, who's driving 11 hours round trip to like hit job sites and stuff.
Poor truck.
Yeah. Well, so we launched Dunn. And from my perspective, guys, so like the cool thing is I'm vision and mobility and like direction, and I'm here for the people. Like I get people jacked up in our team and in our culture, like to go. And then the backside of that is like we have to facilitate that additional growth. And some of that stuff is crazy. And every time we do it, it's not like we have repeatable systems, but it's always changing. And we live in a culture of change like all the time. And so some of that stuff is, there's kind of a cycle to it because if you ever get complacent to where you're like, everything we do is perfect, then you've lost your growth initiative because everything you do can get better, right? You got to be committed to getting better. So let's talk about some of that. Like we launched Dunn, everybody's excited. We got people, we were there for the ribbon cutting. We've got, the whole city council's there. Everybody's there. We've got 100+ people in this little design center. They're all ecstatic. We had people drive in from like 2 and 3, 4 hours away to come and see that. And and then you got the hurdle of actually being able to produce barns there. So like, talk about a little bit of this. Like,
yeah, we had a lot going on in that one little time period.
Yeah.
It was a situation where we had that bridge awards that same day.
Yep.
The cumulative team that has to come together to get that system up and running. Holy cow. It was insane of how much stuff had to go into it. Like you got Alicia that was involved in it. You got Nick's trying to pull the strings. You got Derek running them back and forth down there. Mario's running back and forth to that office. It's a lot different than our beginning. Because our beginning, we were like, can y'all do this? Absolutely. Just tell us no when, let us know when it's done. And so you have to be a little bit more dialed in and targeting. And that's your area of expertise. And mine is more of, we are absolutely the yin and yang. So like he's the oorah and I'm like the Terminator. So people will like super draw up when I walk in the room and everybody looks at TJ like, Protect us, daddy.
Well, you guys, we went on a leadership trip with me and a couple of dudes from the office and Nick and Nate. And the last day of the trip, we were at Churchill Downs and touring the track and everything. And we were eating breakfast at this place, Wagner's, which is phenomenal. Like,
I got a hat from it.
And what else?
A whip.
I brought Ross a whip. So that is 100%.
My wife walked in was like, what is this about? It was a very awkward moment.
Well, I had to carry it in the office, and everyone was looking at me like, okay. But what was funny is we were in the gift shop at Wagner's, and everybody's like buying like coffee cups and all that stuff. And I look over and I see this horse whip, and I'm like, oh, 100% I'm buying this for Ross. And both of them are like, don't you dare buy that for Ross. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting this for Ross. So they all went out to the van, and then I come walking out with this freaking flog or whatever it is.
Nick told me.
But yeah, so growth in and of itself isn't enough. It's got to be scale. So some of the things you're talking about, like launching an office that's, further away in a whole new state with all new people, it's kind of like a new way to approach this, because we had multi offices, but we're all kind of in the same state, and we had some bleed over with personnel. But up there, it's like brand new world. And
building them though is extremely difficult. The idea is pretty easy, but the best analogy I could be is, my background is building, muscle cars and going to car shows. That was my pastime thing. So the brochure is opening the idea. Okay. And then you get the frame, the wheels, you start trying to build this thing. What they don't tell you is once you get the outside where it looks like it's going to happen, it's going to come to fruition. You got to put a power plant in. You got to put people on the ground like Hunter, Mike. You got to staff it. It is extremely difficult to pull this trigger and be successful. And that's what I didn't realize. Because, all of our other ones were just like, shoot it, we'll figure it out. And then this one was a lot more calculated. I think we're better for it, for sure. Did we learn a lot of things? Absolutely. 1,000%. Anytime you break into a market, I really feel like if you're a builder out there, just call us. We will train you. Hire us as coaches, because we will give you all the inside information. Because we've learned it from the whip. I mean, everything we learned, no one took us and said, let me help you. We just did it and got our ass whipped.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the thing is you got to test. And so we do this all the time. Like we're testing things daily. And they're not all wins, but they all produce results we're looking for, which is a way to learn and grow and change that thing. And then we go and test again, and we keep doing this. And it's like this process to become better than ever. You gotta realize how bad you are, And so like, and I say that in a positive way, like getting it wrong is not the end all be all. It's necessary.
Well, we'll be 1,000% more prepared the next market. There's no doubt in my mind when you say, I know it's going to happen. TJ's going to come in the office one day and he's going to be like, I got the itch. And he's going to want to open another office. The good thing about it is now, because we laid the framework of how we're going to open offices, it's repeatable. It's scalable. It's the ability to give us, we know what the standard operating procedure is for purchasing. It's not just putting a sign on a glass door and saying, hey, welcome. We're going to cut the ribbon here. We now know that when we go into a market, there's an immense amount of research that has to happen. You got to have a list of things that has to be fulfilled. And then we can intelligently open that office confidently. Yeah. And that's the goal. That's the goal. 1,000%. Yep. It's just like anything else. It's an investment. And you and I, when we open that office, what's the return? How long is it going to take us to get that return back? Because it's very expensive.
Oh, for sure. But it's easy to launch. It's hard to produce.
That's right.
And so we kind of learned that through Somerville and like that expansion, and we're in the Columbia area, and then going into Dunn, we had learned from those. you know, and so we had a little bit better perspective on it. And then the process of opening the Dunn office gave us even more perspective. So like, you know, we had some really key players come in, like Hillary up there, like she came over and she's running that front house management, and like her, you know, she has industry knowledge. She understands the process. She knows exactly what goes into those client meetings and what's important selection wise and how all this ties together. And what's fun is, you know, we said, as we, you know, embolden this better than ever strategy, that we're going from a company of growth to a company of scale. And in order to do that, you got to have process. And the only way a process works is if it's documented. And so we've literally made the mission the standard. And like we've dialed that in, and we've had the ability to sit down in every single team of our business and say, what is the process? And that's great that you can tell me, if I ask everyone on your team, what are they going to tell me? And does it align? And is it exactly the same person to person throughout? And that's not the case. And the bigger we get, you know, like we've experienced this growth really fast to where it was you and I, and we were not always on the same page, but it was easy to get on the same page. We just had to meet and say, this is what we're doing. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then when you go from 2 people to 50 people inside of an organization, and now not only 50 people, but 5 strategic leaders leading the 50 people, the conversation can't just be a conversation. It has to be a documented process. And so dialing up some of that stuff and like, you know, trying to find new trade labor and not just find someone who can go and do the work, but somebody who subscribes to how we want it done. And to be able to bring this to the area, you know, and like every day you talking about me getting the itch, bro. Every day we get a message from someone in some remote town somewhere in America going, do you guys build here?
Yeah. So like that leads me back to another thing. There's a lot. I have to give a shout out to our staff that have grown with us from 2 to 50. Also, the same situation goes with the people that have building with us, that have gone through those transitions with us. I was talking to a client the other day, and he was like, man, I saw y'all grow really rapidly. And a lot of people, they'll look at like this podcast and they'll look at us opening an office and they'll be like, well, no, if you weren't focused on opening this podcast or opening this office, our house would get done. And we're going, you're on month 3. Like, I don't want to be ugly, but like we're getting there. Right. And then they come back to reality for a minute and they're like, you're right, you're good. But, you know, let's not cheapen the fact that clients have gone through this transition with us, literally through the middle, where we're training not only staff, but we're having to go back to clients and go, hey, this process didn't work out for us. And this is the new process. We're sorry, but it will be better. It will be better. And it's been a lot better. Yeah. That way.
No, yeah. Well, again, everybody's had to ride this ride.
That's right.
And it's always changing. And clients, you know, sometimes they get exposed to things that don't work. And you know, that's in everything we do. And look, as good as we are today compared to a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it doesn't mean that tomorrow we're not going to encounter something that doesn't work, and we're going to change it on the fly. And the part of that is like creating a better communication standard. So like if you're out there and you're in this industry and you're not communicating with your clients effectively, you're self-sabotaging. Because 99%
shut the door.
Yeah, 99% of the time, they're okay with the change as long as they understand what's happening.
Right.
And so one thing that we had to learn was like internally we weren't communicating the best between departments, but more so than that, the communication to the client wasn't
adequate
or even on the same page. And they were like they don't know where to go to get information. And so,
I mean, even to the point to where if like you're a builder out there, and you're going through these extensive growths, my best advice to you is whatever your communication is today, 10x it.
Yeah.
Over communicating to someone to the point to where they're aggravated that they're getting a phone call from you is a great thing when you're in growth mode, because you won't get the angry phone call that we haven't heard from anybody. We don't know what's going on, because the moment that little seed drops that no one's paying attention, no one's at my job site, no one's contacting me, you can never, you can't reel it back in.
Well, again, and it's unprecedented growth to some degree because, you know, we expect it. Like we have an expectation of it now.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, we had no idea what to expect. Right. And so we have clients that grew with us. And, you know, and some people, like, they go from raging, just like can't believe that, you're the worst people in the world. A few months later, they're living in their home. They're calling us back to come back and build additional dwellings, and their kids are ready to build. And, so like it works itself out. But I think if there's one thing that we dropped the ball in, it was communicating, and just open line of communication so that they know what's going on every step of the way. But inside of doing all of that kind of stuff, the challenges of growing also come with the fruit of learning. Like, we get better and better and better. You brought up the Bridge Award, so I want to shout this out for a minute, because I believe we're the only barndominium in our area that's ever won one.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know what we were really signing up for.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And I was at the Dunn ribbon cutting that day. And what time was the ribbon cutting? It was like, Jenna, was it 1 o'clock? It was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the Bridge Awards
I was watching, don't worry.
at 6.
I was like, there's no way you'll make it.
And I shout out Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, because they brought the food to the Dunn. And if you are in Eastern North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not from Eastern North Carolina, you need to get on a plane and go out there just to eat a sandwich. But I remember I was leaving, and I'm like making a plate of barbecue to take with me, and flying down the interstate to get here. And it's like disco night or something. Yeah. Which I still got a bone to pick with Taylor on that whole situation. But we had disco night. My wife's like ordering stuff off Amazon. I show up at the house, and like we had a sitter show up almost the same time we show up. Kids are getting out of the van. They're going inside. Me and Hannah, and I'm like, she's like, yeah, you should have something in these boxes. We're like tearing up an Amazon boxes. I've got on like this sparkle jacket.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
All this kind of stuff. Yeah. And we show up, and then Ross meets me at the door with a pair of bell bottoms.
My wife's bell bottoms. Make it better.
Oh my gosh. But it was fun. And it was fun to have a moment to realize, like, at the end of the day, what we do is pretty spectacular. Yeah. Like, it's, in the midst of chaos, and sometimes when we're inside the machine, all we see is the chaos, right? And if you're a client and you're unsatisfied with something, all you think about is the chaos. And, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. Like, for every one thing we do wrong, we get a lot of things right. But when you're in the environment, like, hey, I want every single thing we do to be better. And like, we don't ever approach anything like, well, if we can just get it a little better, it'll be better. Like, no, our mission going in is, I want to double this.
Yeah. If we find a mistake, we burn the thing down and revamp it right then. Yep. The biggest thing, that I think we struggle with between Q4 and Q1 was we had a lot of clients that were in direct contact with you and I.
Yeah.
And then we realized how important leadership was, the leadership role. And a lot of those clients felt, I don't know, alienated is the word, but they felt disconnected because they no longer had access to you and I. And it was not by design to be like, you can't have access to me and TJ. Right. It was because we put a process in place and a management system in place. I had one specific client that I had to explain this to them, is that when the process is broken and we hired all these people and we put Nick Men's in charge of director of construction. Then we had Billy. Everybody's seen Billy. Billy is the area manager. And then you have a project manager, and there's a hierarchy of panic. The reason why that is because you need to make sure that the area manager knows it first. If he can't deal with it, then the director of construction steps in. And then when he can't deal with it, it gets to us. But everybody, if you or I run out there on a Billy situation, and we're telling a client, hey, it's not a big deal. We'll deal with this. This is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. It cuts the legs out from under Billy, where his job's worth nothing at that point. Nick Men's, he has no purpose at that point. And then it completely breaks the system again.
But not only that, you and I don't have the capacity for it.
No, hell no.
Because the thing is, like, in the beginning, 10 projects.
Yeah.
There's a high likelihood you're going to see me and Ross out there on your job. You may even see us swinging hammers. I mean, I can remember early jobs, me and you out there chiseling stuff up and trying to do things on the job site. And like,
can you bring me a skill saw?
Yeah. Like, that doesn't happen now. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But with growth, like, you and I can't do it alone.
That's right.
It's impossible. And there's a demand in the marketplace. This year we'll turnkey 100 units or more. And next year there's a demand already to exceed that. Mm-hmm. And the only way that that's possible is to always be continuously improving the process, continuously getting better, continuously hiring staff, going after top talent, putting top talent in, bringing them in. They got better perspective than we have on things, and like their ability to execute and solve problems surpasses ours in a lot of areas. And so, you know, that's part of it. And that's kind of like going into this. Like we have so many new people on our team, and they're all bringing fire to the table.
Well, let me give you an example. Okay, I've been in Somerville for 2 days. You and I are red dirt boys. That's where we build. That's what we do. And then we open Somerville. We got our lashings from sand. But our newest hire, Scott Anderson, man, what a breath of fresh air. Because not only is he a project manager, go ahead.
I was going to say shout out Horry County. Horry County. How you say it? Is it Horry? Horry or Ori?
Ori. I think the H is silent.
I like saying it the other way. I mean, it's Myrtle Beach, you know what I'm saying? but shout out Horry County, which is now green on the map.
Yeah,
and, you know, that's an expansion area. So we've got a bunch of projects going vertical in Conway, Myrtle Beach, and all around that area. But yeah, Scott.
So the cool thing is that, you know, you got the director of construction, Nick's meeting with him. Billy is kind of coaching him on the side. And then Scott opens his mouth. And what you realize is you've not reeled in just a regular PM. You've reeled in an Horry County PM that knows what he's doing. And he looks at a set of plans and goes, guys, this may work in Somerville. This may work in Duncan, but it won't work here. And so it is extremely important about hiring talent, because there's talent that we hire that we learn from. That he'll go, we all know how to build houses, but he knows the little bitty specifics, the things that matter in Horry County. And then that situation, it is more important for them to be speaking to Scott than it is to be speaking to me, for sure. Because there's things that Scott knows that I don't know about Horry County. And that's the reason why we search these people out.
Yep. Not only that, but the resources there.
Holy cow.
You know, like Mike and Dunn.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, we're up there like scouring to find trades. Mike comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'll just call Ricky." You know, like he knows the people here that can do the things we need done.
Yeah.
And so it bridges that gap and allows us to come in and just build more dreams, man. So that's good. What are the kind of highlights we got from Q1?
We did we handed out the rings, the belts, all that stuff. That was at the semi-quarterly.
Yeah, that was at the big the company-wide quarterly event. We did that out at Riverbend. Let's talk about Riverbend.
I will tell you this, like our annual this year. Are we talking about that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so our annual. None of our people were prepared for Nick Alfano. None of them. Especially on the night that it rained. Yep. Not one of them. And so I think that extreme, because you and I you were exposed to it twice in 2 different EVs. I was done one time with EV. And, man, big shout out to that guy. Love him.
Well, if you don't know what we're talking about, so we try to celebrate our people. Because, like, again, in the Ross and TJ show, every single person that works inside this company is a person. And one thing that I hammer home all the time to every leader, and every leader reciprocates this down the channels, is what you do is not who you are. Right, you're a person outside of this. You got a family, and like one of our core values is be the best at everything we do. Well, what's everything we do? Building barns is just a portion of it. So we really want to invest in them, and so we come together every quarter and we throw this big quarterly offsite event. We bring the whole company from every office together. We do fun stuff. You know, we went fishing. We've done all these different things. We just had a big clay shooting event up at our Riverbend development, and then the annual is like a 3-day getaway to where we take the whole team away and just get them away, and we invest into them. And so Nick Alfano, who you've seen on previous episodes, he come in and he's like a life coach. He'll strangle me for saying that because he don't like the way it sounds, but that's essentially what he's doing.
He's a very good life coach.
Yeah. He's literally the best life coach. But yeah, he came in and it was a way for us to invest in our people because he was transformational to our lives. And so, you know, having him out there, and he puts you through the ringer. He's got him out there in the rain, carrying buckets of water, and, you know,
take it back.
Everybody's getting frustrated, but it's mimicking real life scenarios of when the pressure gets on. What are you going to do? You know, and if you don't follow some kind of system, you will ultimately fail, no matter how fast you move the water, no matter what. So
it was great. It was great. It was a good thing. I think all of our annuals or quarterlies are really, really productive. But again, we do build barndominiums, but nowadays our staff builds them, and TJ's really good at building people. So I govern the Barndo side, and he governs building those people, and it's really neat to see people grow. So,
we've had some tremendous leaders born inside of the system.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else. What else launched this quarter? This podcast. This podcast has been sensational in getting a message out beyond the fact that we just build barndominiums. And, we've had contractors from all over the country. I mean, I've had people from Pennsylvania, Texas, Michigan, Kentucky, Ohio, Florida, just to name a few that have reached out to me personally. And coordinated. I've had phone calls. I've had Zoom calls with some of these people and they're just asking questions, which is awesome. Cause I remember starting the company and trying to get these meetings and everybody just blowing you off. Like nobody has time to have a conversation. Nobody cares. It seems that way. I don't believe that that's true. I believe people do care. I just think people are in the midst of chaos and they don't know how to manage it. But having the ability to launch this and open up the door for people to come in and ask those questions and know this, I don't have all I can tell you what we did, and it's a circumstance of what we've done. But I can't tell you the magic recipe, but I can give you pointers. And I love doing it because I know the struggles. And when we encounter something, we document it. And I'm the first one to tell somebody, please don't ever do this, because this was a terrible way to learn. Another thing that it's done is it's connected us to people that previously didn't know who we were. We had several people that have came in and are in the process of building a barndominium with us that found us through this podcast. So this has been a huge tool for us inside of the organization to not only just connect with other builders and connect with suppliers and connect with, potential customers, but to showcase some of our people, man. We got good people.
Well, in the beginning, it was, I remember the day you come and told me you were going to start a podcast, and I was like, okay, whatever, go for it. And so I didn't expect it to grow. It's like everything you touch grows this way, though. So I should have known. However, man, it has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a lot of fun to do these podcasts. But you're right. The guests that you've had, if you'd have told me you'd have had some of them, I'd have laughed you off the place. There's no way you'd have got some of them in here.
Yeah.
And it just happened.
Well, it's fun. And it's been cool to not just make it all Barndo talk. Like, at the end of the day, man,
let me touch base on this one here. So, like, when we did the podcast situation and our company found out we were going to do it, I remember the day that you came in and you were like, hey, I'm going to bring Nick and Billy and we're going to have Olivia on. And then they found out about it. And I don't think that they were so bought in until they were like, we're going to be on this podcast. And I remember Nick coming in, he was like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? And I was like, whatever he asked you, you better just follow along.
Well, it's just putting people.
It was great buy-in, though.
Yeah, of course. Like culturally, it's been great for us. But I guess the hidden gem, and I did not know this going into it, was the exposure of them to people. And so now they have a face and the name, and they kind of understand a story behind who they're talking to.
Right.
And honestly, if you talk to them, they're way brighter than I am. And so, I'm hoping it facilitates the need to want to talk to them rather than me, because they know more than me. I'm dumb. I talk good. So the podcast, that's been a big win. Mm-hmm. The launching of Done was a big win. And then sandwiched in there is about 10,000 catastrophes that some were very minimal, some very big, some are all
there's
over the
also
board.
the need, like, for instance, nobody knows this, but like our CRM, like Silo, for instance, like nobody knows the behind the scenes thing, but man, I didn't realize that we would have a piece of software and then literally outgrow it within 12 months. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, here's the thing is everybody voices concerns, and there's never been a complaint. So there's two different kinds of things. And I talked about this at our annual event with some of our salespeople is there's complaints and objections, right? An objection is, I don't want to do business with you because of this. A complaint is, I'm going to do business with you, I just don't like you, right? Mm-hmm. That's okay. I don't mind complaints. Everybody gets frustrated. I love my wife. I love my children. Do you think that there's days we don't argue? Do you think there's days that we don't get it right? There's days where, everybody in a marriage has slept on the couch at some point in time. If that happens in marriage, you can bet your sweet butt it's going to happen. in a business transaction, especially one as expensive and drawn out as building a custom home is. So, but complaints are fine. Complaints are just complaints. Let's get them off your chest, let it out. It makes everybody better, right? Objections are, you guys don't do this well enough. And that never falls on a deaf ear. We take every single thing, every piece of constructive criticism, even if it's meant to cause harm, I don't care. It is the most valuable thing. The best thing I can get is a 1-star review or a nasty email or somebody blow up a comment on our social media posts about their experience, because I immediately log it, or someone sends it in and we log it and we staff it and we break it down, and we are non-emotional in that approach, right? It's not about how it made us feel. It's about how did their experience not work, regardless of it. I'll give you a prime example of this. So we had a client, I can't remember the name, I wouldn't say it anyway, but we had a client purchase a floor plan, okay? Just so everybody understands this. Online floor plans is like this much of our business, right? Mm-hmm. We did that as a service because everybody wanted to build our houses, and they're always asking for plans. And, you know, our designers.
We're like number one on Etsy.
Yeah. But our designers were
Pinterest.
Were kind enough to say, let's create a program to roll these out and allow other people to purchase the use of these plans and get the information that they need. And there's so much misconception about plans and what is included and what's not included. And, you know, the number one comment is, y'all charge too much. That's fine. Don't buy them. That's a complaint. But when someone purchases a plan and they were like, you know, we had a less than stellar experience and these aren't even engineered, my initial thought was, well, no duh. You didn't buy the engineering. You know, if you look on our website, there's a clearly indicated spot where it says, are you in need of structural engineering? Because let's be honest, out of the entire United States, I would venture to say it's more than 50%, but at least 50% does not require it, right? They don't require it, but a lot of places do. Now, let's dive in a little bit about what that means. If you're in an area and they need an engineered set, there's a lot of information that goes into this. Who's building it? Who's going to build it for you? Because if I'm not building it, you've hired someone to erect a barndominium. That means nothing. There's so many people building them so many different ways. If I engineer it to the standard in which we build, and then you take it to this builder, you're going to be equally as upset. And now you're out that money. So we like to have a conversation around engineering. But to get back to the point was, they made a post. Hey, I'm dissatisfied about these plans. All I got was this PDF, architectural plans, no engineer stamp on it. I'm like, okay. Well, I sent a message to them. Hey, like, if you want engineering, that's an option when you check out. No, it wasn't an option for us. It's an option for everybody. So I sent them a screenshot of the thing. They're like, oh, well, we didn't see that. And so there's a tendency there to go, I'm going to defend me to the death.
Yeah.
But I paused and said, I'm sorry that you had that experience. It doesn't change anything. I'm not giving free engineering away. They'd already found an engineer, thankfully, locally. And come to find out, the builder that they're working with doesn't build the way we build. So it was a blessing for them, because without that information, it's hard to engineer it.
Right.
And so, but it made me think, like, okay, it's on the webpage. Hey, these are not engineered. If you'd like engineering, here's what the protocol is. You click this button that says, I would like to add engineering. It tells you what the timeline is. It tells you what the additional cost is. And then when you go to check out, it confirms, right, this is the right order. And yet again, you have the option to add it. But I was like, if this person had that experience, how do I improve that experience? And so, you know, it's one of those things where, like, how do we continuously get better? So, like, I've been working with our web development team. Like, could we put a video there? Is there something we could put? Just make it absolutely impossible so that someone doesn't mistakenly buy things. And again, some of this stuff is going to get swept under the rug because everybody that buys something has buyer's remorse at some point in their life. You know, like, it's stressful. It creates all kinds of stuff, you know, and there's a lot of builders in the country that don't want to work with other people's plans. And, like, there's a lot of things that go into this. However, we've sold thousands of plans off the website. It was just one complaint.
Yeah.
But we still take that into consideration, and we're always trying to improve the process. How can we make it better? And you brought up Silo, which is kind of our proprietary backend, you know, It's built off of a platform that's widely available, but we've developed this thing to do what we do And we just recently underwent a massive upgrade there. Shout out Hudson, right? Who came in. He's like the freaking AI
genius.
Yeah. It blew my mind. But
it's a little scary.
It's continuous improvement. Like, I don't want to just be status quo. I want to be the front runner. I want to be the king of the category. And to do that, you have to be willing to invest in stuff that somebody else might not even know that exists or even finds it useful, but it increases the customer experience. So we've just recently overhauled our entire back-end system. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It created pandemonium inside of the company because it's different and it does a lot of things, but the customer's experience will 100x improve. And so those are the kind of things we're doing. Like, nobody knows that. No, if you said the term silo, they think of a grain silo. They have no idea that we have a system in the background that's running and doing all that. So, like I said, Q1's been like launching out of a bottle rocket.
But it's been easier for sure because now this is round 2, round 3, and so we know what the process is for Q1. We know the ups and downs of Q1 because we remember the previous Q1. So it's been pretty neat, man. It's been a handful, that's for sure. A lot of sleepless nights, but it's all right. So
well, let's see what else. Trying to think if there's anybody else that we need to shout out for Q1. I mean, everybody, but I was just trying to think, like, is there any other like highlight reel things?
Well, Hunter spoke at the Riverbend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Shout out Hunter Ballou. You probably know that name. If you don't, he owns roofing.com and, Cornerstone Construction, all these different things. He's a local friend. He's a killer leader. Got an incredible book, Make It Count. The foreword was written by John Maxwell. So that give you any indication of who we're talking about. But we read that as a team at the end of last year. And so everybody kind of got invested into this. And it's like, living your life on mission, having a purpose behind what you do. And I think we do that really well as a company, but it's important to realize that beyond the walls of this place, these same practices are true in your own life, right? And his book was phenomenal. Everybody really engaged with that. They loved it. And so I'd reached out to him about coming. So he came to the quarterly at Riverbend and spoke to the team. And that was huge. Everybody's been like,
well, we've had a lot of private time with Hunter too. So, I mean, you've had a ton. But, man, you won't find a more genuine person. Man, you're just like, wow, good guy.
Oh,
really good guy.
Super.
Even after all the accolades, just if you ever have a chance, sit down with this dude. Yeah. You'll feel better when you get up, I promise.
Yeah, he's one of those people where you don't care what he did. You're more concerned with who he is.
Yeah.
He's a stellar guy. But, yeah, I mean, that's just, again, we pour into our team immensely. We try everything in our power to make working here as fun as possible. We try to make the experience as good as possible, and we're always chasing greatness in every way possible. And like I say, every day we find ways to improve it, every single day. Well, you and I don't get to do this together that often, so we're all over the world at different times. But while we're here, let's do a barn burner, man. Like,
okay,
barn burner segment. We have several Facebook communities, the biggest of which is the Barndominium Designs and Layouts page. If you type in Barndominium Designs and Layouts in Facebook, it'll take you to that page. There's like 500,000 something of you guys in there. And again, I've said this before, but if you ever want to get real, raw, relevant feedback, just post something that you think is great, and you'll get 9,000 comments on why you're the biggest dummy on the face of the planet. And we love that stuff. And everybody has questions. One of the things we try to do is educate people on how to do it. And we have a choose us, not use us solution at Barndo Co. We don't want you to use us if you don't feel comfortable. That's why we onboard. That gives you an experience to interview us along the process. But another thing is you ask a tremendous amount of questions on there. So young Jenna, what kind of questions we got for Barn Burner? And I have no idea what she's going to ask us. So if we reply stupid, again, this is going to direct you back to our team of leadership that you should redirect your questions to. But are you ready, man? You look nervous.
I'm good.
Oh, yeah? All right.
It's just an everyday thing now.
Let's go.
All right. So our first question we have is, has anyone built the maple floor plan on a crawl space foundation versus a slab? If so, is there any major structural changes?
I'm satisfied someone has done it. We did not do it for them. I'm not even. This This is all you, baby.
So yes, I know for a fact one has been built on a crawl space. I will tell you this. Crawl spaces, there's people that swear by them. There's people that run from them. We as a company, we do stem wall, we do mono slab, we'll do basements. We may take on a crawl space, but the liability of the humidity and full encapsulation, all of those things make putting any of those houses on a crawl space a liability to me and TJ. That's a preference situation, but it's not to be said that it can't be done. There's millions of homes on crawl spaces
For sure,
day.
but you're not going to build a post frame structure.
That's
on a
right.
crawl space.
Absolutely not.
You're going to lose some element
Yeah.
of the barndominium style.
Yeah.
Can you stick build it and put metal siding? For sure. But, But yeah, it definitely has been done. We just have not done it, and there's a multitude of reasons why we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So our second question. I've noticed with all the barndos, none of them are elevated with steps. Can it be done?
Yes, absolutely.
You have not looked closely.
I was about to say.
So the only reason you would have, I'm assuming they're talking about stairs going into the main entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to a lot of houses are built on crawl spaces. That's not always the case. So again, go back into like a stem wall. Give a fifth grade explanation of a stem wall.
So a stem wall is basically a miniature basement wall that we fill in with dirt and put a layer, we under slab it. You're putting in all of the aggregate and you're putting the 10 mil poly on top of that aggregate. And then you're building a house on top of one giant dirt concrete block.
Yeah. So it's basically like a wall around it.
It's a filled-in
there's
basement.
a slab on top.
Yeah. It's just a filled in basement. That's all it is.
It's kind of like if you could envision pouring a slab on top of a crawl space.
Yeah. Literally. That's what it is.
Yeah. So in those scenarios, and we run into these all the time because, as much as we would love for everybody to have perfectly level and beautiful land, it's not the case. So in those situations, a lot of times you'll see in our photos, the house will be oriented in a way to where the natural flow, we like to have a smooth transition to the porches and just one step up into the house. But it's not always the case. So we've built several of these where we've even had to put wooden porches or decks coming off of the structure because of a stem wall. So yes, it can be done, but again, it's basically built on your terrain because traditionally they're built on a monolithic slab, which is only a few inches.
It's very expensive. I'll just say it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have perfectly flat land, I'm sorry, but it does.
It is expensive. It's expensive. That's the biggest thing that turns people away because you're basically paying for half of a basement that's not usable.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. And I've got one last question for you. It's kind of a fun question, but what's the most unusual or unique request you've ever received from a client for their barndominium design?
Go ahead.
I don't even know where to start. To bring it down to one?
Pickleball courts, climbing walls.
Yeah.
What's the slide in
Slides.
McDonald's?
First of all, the pickleball court, the climbing wall, and the slide.
They're all in one. They're all in one.
One house.
Yeah.
And so we get tasked with stuff all the time. Hard things to do. It depends. So some people just have ridiculous imaginations. And so we've had people ask about that. We've had people ask about retractable roofs. Mm-hmm. We've had people that wanted to put pools indoors. All of this is doable, but it's expensive. And so, we try to mitigate some of this during the design process because our designers do a pretty good job of saying like, hey, this is going to add $700,000 to your budget. And they're like, oh, never mind. But we've had those. We've had people want to do like log siding indoor and outdoor. And I'm like, just build a log cabin. Like, you'll be way happier with a log cabin. But they're like, no, we want this. And
I think the weirdest one, not weirdest, but it's just it's requested a lot and they don't understand the issue with it is having a see-through fireplace to the outside of the house.
Yeah.
Where you're like, there's heated space here and there's outside.
Yeah. And
there's got to be something in the middle.
Well, and to get the glass, it's expensive.
It's a glass, but even still, even the sticker on the glass says there's no R value in it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. We get some bizarre calls.
We have one right now they're literally wanting a tornado-proof house. And so, just so we're clear, there's no such thing.
Yeah. And I would definitely not stamp it.
We
that
would.
it was.
That's right. That's the first thing I told them. But they want the entire house to be poured in concrete. The interior walls, the exterior walls, everything all the way to the top. And when I gave them a price, so here's the deal, and it's not to be ugly, but we are always time conscious. And so if one of our sales agents asks you, what's your budget? It's not for us to go, let's run that whole entire budget out of, let's take them to the max. It's for us to be able to look at you and go, when you got a budget of $600,000 and you want a 4,000 square foot concrete house, that 4,000 square foot concrete house is going to cost $500,000 in concrete, just the concrete. And then we can come back to reality. So it's basically like reverse engineering backwards. But a lot of people get super offended by us going, and it's not us saying, can you afford it? But it is nicely saying, is this within your budget?
Is it feasible?
Is it feasible? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think. It's been a minute ago, but we had someone that wanted us to insulate their home with wool, and they wanted to provide it.
Yeah.
They will.
I know.
And this may be a thing. We don't do it. But it was a complete deal breaker. Like, they walked away because they wanted us to insulate. I don't even know. Well,
the problem is, even if we did that, who are you going to call when you get the inspector and he goes, why is there raw wool in the?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know if it would pass code.
I don't think an engineer would write your letter or anything.
The question I had on the phone was, why would you want, or where would I source wool for your? And I was like, you mean rock wool? They're like, no, we mean sheep's wool. And they were like, we'll provide the wool. And I was like, I'm not going down this rabbit hole. I don't know where. No, I don't. Yeah. That's probably the single strangest thing that I've had somebody ask me about is putting sheep wool in their walls. And I'm sure somebody's going to comment on this like, we do that all the time. That's great. I will refer these people to you.
Hook us up with Jesus' number where he's sharing these lambs. There's a couple of times I need to speed dial that.
Part of me wishes I would ask, like, where are you sourcing the wool? Like,
yeah. How?
How much is wool? Like, I don't know. I have so many questions with this.
You got your own whole herd.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy the things that we get asked, though. So,
well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with me today, man. It's always fun when we get to do it.
We hang out together.
Yeah, I know, but not here.
I know.
We don't get to cut up online and talk about just stuff.
Just a FYI, we hang out every day. I'll see you at work.
All right, bro. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Barndo Show podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this content, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And then be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms at the Barndo Co. Super simple to find us. And then when you're ready to dive in a little more, maybe look around some of our available floor plan options or take a look at the gallery of our work, or maybe you're ready to connect with our team and explore what it looks like to build your dream barndominium, you can visit us online at thebarndoco.com.